So welcome to the session, Accelerate Your Oracle Modernization Journey to Azure Data. My name is Neil. I'm a program manager.
Hi, I'm Harmeet Singh. I own migrations to PostgreSQL.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kuldeep Chauhan, and I'm owning the customer's modernization journey from their existing source database platforms to Azure databases, be it homogeneous from SQL to SQL or heterogeneous Oracle or any other platform to Azure databases. We help the customers unlock.
Cool. So today, it's going to be quite a demo-heavy session. We have like a couple of demos, and what we're going to talk about is how do we modernize Oracle to Azure data. So when you are considering Oracle as a workload and you want to modernize, there are quite a few possible options, right? So you can rehost, so you can install as a VM, in an Azure VM. So that's one possible option. Second is you can go ahead and re-platform. The third is refactor, and we are going to focus a lot today how we can refactor some of the and re-platform, like how can you translate an Oracle PLSQL to T-SQL, and what are the tools available, similarly for PG-SQL as well, right? So this is a matrix which talks about all the possibilities in Azure. So we can have PostgreSQL, you can have SQL Server, Azure SQL DB, Cosmos, and Fabric. So these are all the possible targets in your Azure. And it all depends on what kind of workload you have, right? So if it's an OLTP or kind of an online transactional database, then you can go ahead and make changes, and it can fit in the SQL or PG-SQL or maybe in an Oracle VM. When it comes to an Exadata, also, if you look at it, it's all color-coded, which is suitable for re-platform, which is suitable for re-architect. So most of them, if you look at, they fall under the revise and re-architect as a possibility, and also the refactor. Right? If you have a lot of kind of analytics workload, that's where the Fabric is a suitable target, where you can go ahead and redesign your application to make it a one-lake kind of architecture. So today we are going to focus mainly in three, which is the Azure SQL as a target, PostgreSQL as a target, and we are also going to touch upon it's a pretty reality that when you have a lot of Oracle in your estate, moving to Oracle VM is also a possibility. So we'll touch what are the capabilities we have if you want to move to Oracle VM as well. So quick on a market analysis is when you want to kind of go ahead and modernize your Oracle workload. These are the common challenges which we see in the industry. The first is the teams and skill set, because you need resources who understands Oracle and who has deep knowledge in SQL as well, right? So which is a pretty limited skill set we have in the market. Then is the migrating data. Data comes in various shape and form. The data can be a blob data. It can be a very high precision data if you're using like finance or very scientific-based databases data. So migrating data is always a challenge. And the systems like Oracle and the target SQL and PG-SQL, though there is pretty much a parity in all the data types, but then there are scenarios where it kind of diverges. So in the scenarios when the data type diverges, how do you kind of select what should be a target looks like? And third is the reliability, right? So because when you want to change from one platform to another, there is always a possibility of risk, whether the platform will behave as is, whether the behavior of the application remains as is. So there is always a reliability which kind of concerns, because you have an upstream applications, you have downstream applications, all of them get impacted because of that. So we did a kind of a market study with a lot of customers, a lot of SQL developers as well as the DBAs, right? So the common theme and pattern, where can we help to kind of make your journey easy from Oracle to SQL or PG SQL. And these are some of the kind of challenges which we understood, like, hey, performance, pricing, hey, I'm moving from Oracle to SQL, how the pricing looks like, hey, what is, make my migration more predictable, what are my business case, how do I justify that, what will be the TCO benefit once I move from Oracle to some other platform, right? So these are the common theme and patterns. So to solve these challenges, we kind of invested in two areas. One is the Azure Data Studio as a platform, where we have this database migration service, and one of the interface is the Azure Data Studio, and another option is the Azure Migrate, right? So Azure Data Studio is where you can do a point and shoot, where you can connect to an Oracle, you can assess your Oracle environment and understand the SQL target and what is the code complexity required, whereas Azure Migrate is a scenario where you have hundreds of servers, and you want to kind of understand at a very high level how that workload migration might look like, whether you're migrating to SQL, PG SQL, or Oracle as a VM. So we'll start with migration to SQL, and then I'll hand it over to Harmeet to cover the PG SQL scenarios. So migration to SQL, when we talk about, there are basically three major components or three major scenarios you need to handle. The first and the most important is the code complexity, right? So that's why you look at, we in our tooling, we collect a lot of metadata information from the Oracle, and then we create a project with a code conversion assessment and tell you, hey, how compatible or how much our out-of-the-box tool like Azure Data Studio, database schema conversion toolkit can convert automatically, and where you need to do manual intervention, right? So code conversion is one aspect to it. The second is the sizing, right? So when you have SQL, there are multiple options. You can go to SQL VM, SQL MI, SQL DB, which one works for you, which is the easiest one, or which, and if you take that journey of, let's say, MI or DB, what will be the difference you have to factor in? So the target sizing, we help you in that. Like, is your MI going to be general purpose or business critical? Is it going to be hyperscale for SQL DB? So we kind of give you a recommendation along with the kind of the exact SKU size. And the third is the feature compatibility. Suppose you are using Active Data Guard in Oracle, right? So we can kind of give you a suggestion what can be a possible readable replicas is an alternative, or is a possibility in Azure SQL, which you can use for offloading your read workloads and make your DR ready, right? So we do the feature analysis as well. So I'll just do a kind of a run-through video demo, the capability which we have, DMS for Oracle. So this is the Azure Data Studio. If you're not familiar, you can just install. It's a free tool. So you can do a right-click and manage. And when you do a manage, it lists the Oracle instance. The first stage is to do the assessment. And when you choose assessment, you select the target as SQL. We have two types of assessment, workload and code assessment. Code assessment, where we go the deep dive code, like evaluating each and every code. Whereas in case of workload assessment, we kind of do an overall kind of looking at your how many tables, how many store procedures, what kind of data pattern you have, not exactly looking at the code and give you a recommendation, right? We do these validations, and you can select your schemas. Which schema in this demo we are going to do C ## demo. And then you select the performance data. So we can pull data from AWR. That's a great source of information from Oracle about the performance. And we go ahead and pull that information. And then it does a validation. It checks whether do you have the right permissions, do you need all this information. And once the validation is done, you can start assessment. So when you do the start assessment, it actually kind of shows you the status of all the kind of in-progress assessment. So you go to the assessment tab, it shows in progress. You can click on the assessment, and then it gives you what stage it is. So we do a lot of data collection. We do static data collection. We collect feature usage information. We collect the code information. So there are multiple stages which we go ahead and collect this information. So once this information is collected, we also support container database and pluggable databases, which was one of the kind of requests we have heard from from the customers. So you can go ahead and run against a pluggable database. And then it gives you a report. Like, it has given 2 recommendations. Because it's a container database, it gives you a recommendation to go to SQL MI, managed instance, or Azure VM, right? And in this, you can see that there is 4 objects which you need to fix manually. There are more than 49. There are 49 ready, which can be automatically converted using this tool, and there are a few handful which is in needs a review, right? It also tells you the number of hours. So in this case, it says 4 hours. So you need manual 4 hours of dev effort, and which is we kind of estimated based on the industry, like what's the common industry kind of skill sets and how much time we have done a projection, right? So it gives you the a forecast of the manual effort which you have to take. Then it gives you the breakup. So it gives you, hey, looks like I have few data types, I have few functions which needs manual intervention. Those are red in color. And the object name, when you click, it gives you the object name for that, so where you need to do it. The amber ones, yes, it could convert, but there are difference in the behavior, right? So you get a breakup, what is possible, what can be automatically done, what needs a review. It will convert, but you need to do a review, and where you need a manual intervention. The next one is pretty cool. It's this queue recommendation. So we say that, hey, a general purpose 4 core, that's the recommendation. And here we have a feature compatibility matrix where, like, if you select backup encryption, it says encrypted backup is a possibility. Change data capture in Oracle, you can use SQL change data capture. So we kind of give you the parity matrix and possibility when you're migrating and if you want to reuse those functionality. Once you've done that, then you have to do the actual code conversion. So you got the assessment, now you really want to convert it. So you go ahead and create the SQL project. You give Azure SQL database, or you can choose SQL Server database based on the target you choose. And you select a path where the project will be stored. And the reason we choose SQL project, because it's a pretty like commonly used. It's available in SSDT. It is available in Visual Studio. It's available in VS Code. So there is a lot of familiarity when users are using SQL projects. Once you have SQL project created, you have to give a conversion name, a unique name. So I'm going to give it as a demo SQL pass. You select the schema which you want to convert. In this case, I'm going to select the demo schema. And once you do that, you have to select the project which you have created just now, right? Then you click next. And there are certain settings which we offer based on your scenario, like how do you expect null to behave? So there are difference of behavior, so you can go and select those options. What is the compatibility level of Oracle you want to use? Do you want to use legacy mode? Do you want to use the latest one? And you can go ahead and click on conversion. It takes few minutes to few hours based on the number of objects you have, the complexity of the schemas. But we go ahead and show you the exact steps, the stage where we are at this point. And if you look at, we script the object, we analyze, we create a dependency tree. So if you have a store procedure, which is calling another store procedure, so we kind of maintain the whole dependency tree. It's not just translating the code, it is also ensuring it maintains the dependencies, right? Once you have this completed, you can go ahead and look at the SQL project. And the SQL project, it gives you the objects where you might need manual intervention or wherever it needs review. So you can make those changes. Like for some example, it is saying, hey, this particular type is not supported. For some, here the warnings are like, hey, you are changing from numeric decimal to a float, so there is a possibility of precision or data loss. So it goes and gives those information. Then you build it and you publish it, right? So when you publish, that's when you have to select the target. So I'm going to select the SQL database, Azure SQL database as a target. You select the database name and publish, and it takes few minutes because it creates the DAC pack, and that DAC pack gets published, right? So it depends. Again, it depends on the complexity of the DAC pack. It depends on the the number of schemas and objects. So based on that, it will go ahead and create the DAC pack. So it creates a DAC pack and it's going to deploy. So it's going to take some time. And once that is done, you are good to you have converted your schema to the SQL target, right? So this, we just GA'd this product this week. So it was in public preview for almost close to 1.5 years, and we just GA'd this product this week. So feel free to use it. It converts functions, store procedures, packages. Pretty much it covers most of the scenarios, what we have seen in a regular database systems. Yeah, so that was the first demo. I'll take a quick pause for any questions, then we'll go next. Yes?
I'm assuming it's doing the schema, it's not the data itself.
Yes.
So are there tools to help with that?
Yes, so for the data, right now, if you look at, we already have a migration assistant, SSMA. You can use that for migration. You can use Data Factory, Azure Data Factory for data migration. We are working on it, so we also want to kind of extend this conversion to the data migration. So in a few months or so, we will have a migration experience here. But right now, if you want to use it, you can use Data Factory or SSMA or your own custom code to do it. Yeah. Cool.
Thank you, Neil. So yeah, the basic concepts for migration are same for whether you're migrating to SQL or PostgreSQL. The key thing is, even though we are talking about Oracle, but anything you're moving from on-prem to managed service, these will be applicable, right? So the first one is scalability. This is my favorite one. I've seen many customers who have either underutilized servers or they have scaled too tight that, during their peak processing, it just crawls. And it's very, very complex to scale up and down. We have, we are able to scale up and down as needed. It provides cost efficiency, agility. The key thing is, recently at Ignite and past summit, we announced that we are able to scale up and down at almost near zero downtime, less than 30 seconds downtime. So, and that's not only that, we are able to scale compute, storage, and IOPS separately. So we have no, you can scale whatever is needed as needed. You have a Black Friday event, you want to scale from 8 cores to 96 cores, for example, and scale down. It saves significant amount of resources, and apps generally hardly feel any difference. It's just less than 30 seconds downtime, right? So that's the biggest one. Definitely reliability. Reliability, like Neil mentioned, that's one of the key factor which everyone considers, whether, I'm running something on-prem, it's relying on my infrastructure, but how reliable will be when I move to cloud? Or, we have 99.99% reliability with HA. At Ignite and past summit, we announced for our DR as well, we are able to failover to the DR, so promote that to primary, and that too at near zero downtime, so kind of a failover, as well as with that failover, you don't need to change connection strings or anything. It's just automatic, right? So makes the primary as a DR as a primary and the primary as the application, and then you can switch it back anytime. So like with all these things, we have site swap as well. So geo-redundant, like, so far we were able to support if you are in the same zone, we are able to, provide the guarantee. Now with the recent releases like this month, we can do backup restore, swap from any zone, any geo. So it can, it is much more secure and reliable now. You don't have to worry about cluster being down or zone being down or region being down. You can just switch over, fail over. You have a server here, you have a DR or HA in a different region, you can just fail over. Third is operational efficiency, right? Anyone who's managing on-prem, they know it's a pain to maintain, applies updates, security patches, all the things. Most of the things are fully automated. Significant savings in cost. Significant. When we look at day-to-day tasks, it has huge amount of impact. Total cost of ownership, like when we are moving from Oracle, the biggest cost is, of course, the licensing cost, which we generally see as a number. But then there are a lot of additional costs about, like we are talking about operational efficiency, scalability. Like we have seen customers, scaling 4 or 5 times in a month. During the year-end processing, during their peak period, like a couple of hours during the day, all kind of things. It saves thousands and thousands of dollars per server per month. Significant savings as well. So these things are not calculated in generally the total cost of ownership, but when we look at like the holistic picture, savings are humongous. And Postgres being the open source, right? For development test environments, you can start as low as $16 for a server for dev, and sorry, the third one which we released just now is the AI integration. It just announced this. If you have heard Keynote, like this is everywhere. We have announced Azure AI integration where we can create embeddings through SQL. Earlier we used to rely on app to connect to AI and create the embeddings. Now we are able to store embeddings using vector as well in Postgres. So it also gives cognitive search as well. So all those capabilities are from within SQL. We don't need to rely on all the apps and back and forth. And the few things in operational efficiency, I'll say, you must have heard like few times this during the past minute. We have announced SSD v2. SSD v2, earlier Postgres was on SSD v1, and it's almost 4.5 times faster with less than half latency. So, it's significant performance. Like when we look at cost per performance, it's way beyond any other managed service we have there. Yeah, I just talked about a little bit on what all we have released on Azure AI and the vector data type. So discovery for Postgres, for SQL, Neil just showed you that we have assessment and discovery already available. For Postgres, we are coming soon on Migrate, Azure Migrate. For migration, we have 2 options right now. One is Microsoft Ninja team will help white glove some customers using the Spark tool. Kuldeep will be talking a little bit more about that as well. But then we have a lot of migration partners. Like we have like a lot of migration partners who can help right now. Of course, it is per cost. But we save, like we have seen few enterprise customers in the last 2 months. I worked with 2 customers. They have saved up to like 50 to 65% of the cost by moving from Oracle to Postgres. These are some of our partners who are on our website as well. We can, they have different tools available. You can look at what are the pros and cons of those tools, which one works for you if you want to move right now. In the future, we will be able to, bring more migration options as well. Like Neil was saying, we are actively developing. So we will probably be having more migrations options out of the box as well. Neil will take back the demo for Migrate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Amit. Where's the clicker? Yeah, so Azure Migrate, this demo which I'm going to show is the first time. We haven't shown it to anyone, right? We are going to private, as Harmeet said, we are going to be private preview very soon. So if you're interested, we have a QR code you can scan and just nominate yourself, right? So why we picked up Azure Migrate, there are basically 3 reasons behind it. So if you have multi-servers, Oracle servers, doing individual assessment takes time, right? So sometimes one assessment takes 3 hours or 4 hours. And when you have hundreds, you have to manually go and do it, right? So Azure Migrate, as Microsoft's direction, it becomes a single place for all kind of assessments, whether it's VM, whether it's servers, whether SQL Server, and now we're going to introduce Oracle as well. With that in mind, we also realized that there is freedom of choice. So you can select your target as SQL, you can target as PostgreSQL, you can select target as Oracle VM or IaaS as well. So this is a single place where it goes ahead and discovers all your Oracle in your estate, and it creates an assessment report, giving a feasibility as well as the possible cost of those target platforms. And very soon, we will also looking into create a business case, the way if you people have seen in the SQL in Azure Migrate, we will also kind of include a business case where you can project your TCO for that. So it's a 4 or 5 minutes demo. So and this is completely new. This is in the lab environment, which we did. And so this is the Azure Migrate. So if you look at, first is, in the Azure Migrate, it can discover servers, it can discover databases. So it needs an appliance. So in the backend, as a prerequisite, we have installed the appliance, and you give the connection details, and it connects and it pulls all the information of various Oracle servers. So we look into the registries, we look into the Linux file systems, and we're going to support Oracle Linux and Red Hat Linux first. We will add the other flavors. So it finds the Oracle, it lists what are the database size, it tells you whether there is a pluggable databases. So it is able to discover all your Oracle in a single place, right? So that's the step 1. Right? And the advantage of this is when it gives you a holistic, when you want to understand your data center exit as a requirement, it's not just Oracle, SQL, VM, everything can be done in the same place. And this is exactly for the Oracle experience I'm just showing. So it understands the instance, it shows the databases, and then the next step is to go for an assessment, right? So we discovered the Oracle database as preview. You have to give some of the assessment information, like what is the target regions, is it West US, West US 2, and what is the currency you want to kind of show, and we support all the standard currencies here, and then various kind of AHAB benefit, licensing benefit, all the various kind of matrix, and what are the VM types. So if you want to recommend Oracle VM, do you want to exclude a specific VM family or not? So even that also we give. Once you save this information, you can go ahead and run this assessment. It takes some time, depends on the number of servers and what are the various options. So you need to give an assessment name, and you have to give a group name. What is a group? It's a collection of servers. So there might be hundreds of Oracle, but you just want to assess 30 of them. So you create a group and bundle all the Oracle instances there. And then once you do that, you select your Oracle instances and start the assessment. This takes time. What we do during this time is we read your performance data, we read your the configuration data, we understand the schema, and then start creating target for each and every, whether it's SQL DB, SQL MI, Oracle VM, and PostgreSQL, right? Now, In this demo, I just showed you PostgreSQL, but you can get other options as well in the assessment report. So it goes to the PostgreSQL. Just give 2 seconds or 3 seconds. Yeah, it's taking a little time. There's extra gap. Yeah. So you see there's a recommended strategy, PostgreSQL, MI, DB, and Oracle VM. And it gives you the estimated manual efforts. Like, this is a complex one. You need 2,000 hours to convert. And we also give you this queue recommendation for that, right? So this is a completely new feature. This is a starting point where we are going big on Oracle assessment. And yes, so if you're interested, you can register yourself, you can nominate yourself, and we'll connect with you, and we'll try to get you onboarded. And as I said, we support Oracle 11G to all the way to 21. And as a target, we are going to support SQL DB, MI, VM, and PostgreSQL. And we are going to support in the Windows Oracle as well as Linux Oracle with RHEL and Oracle Linux in the current preview. We are expecting in a few weeks to go for the private preview. Yeah. With this, so I just covered what are the tooling and experiences what we have. So Kuldeep is going to walk you through some of the customer experiences, some of the big engagements, and what are the challenges, what we observed, and how we were able to mitigate them, and some of our IPs. Over to Kuldeep.
Thank you, Neil. Hi, everyone. So,
Oh,
questions?
yes.
So I may not be understanding it fully, but those assessments, recommendations, is it like sort of recommendation that maybe uses some intelligence to say, hey, your target for this set of servers is that an MI, or a different target? Does it like do all of that at once, or
Yeah. So
does it only say here's your one based on one?
yeah. So I think I'll just scroll to the video. Yes. Yeah. Oh. Okay, I think your screen shared the presentation.
Make it duplicate.
So, if you look at it, I have the recommended strategy, right? On the left, So I have recommended strategy, right? And then I have Azure SQL DB, SQL MI, DB, and VM, right? So you can go ahead and check each and every individual, and then you have recommended strategy where we will, the strategy can be a migration effort or migration cost, whatever strategy you select. And then based on that, we will say, okay, out of your 50 Oracle, 30 are suitable for VM, 20 is suitable for SQL, 10 is suitable for Postgre, or any mix based on the recommended strategy which we do. But if you are very sure or you want to specifically look at PG-SQL or SQL, then you can go to the next option and select that particular target and see the flavor. The recommended strategy gives you a pie chart with all the possible options, and we kept it based on the strategy with the cost versus effort, whichever you select.
Is Fabric the destination strategy?
Yeah, it points to the target what you want to select, and that's why you select the region as well. Like, so because if pricing is something which like you are concerned with, then every region has a different pricing. So we price the VM, we price the SQL DB, SQL MI, or PostgreSQL with the recommendation. Like we read the Oracle performance data, and based on the performance data, we find which is the suitable target for each, and whichever comes as the cheapest. If cost is the strategy, we show that to you, right? If effort is something like, hey, cost is not a factor, but I want to go quickly to Azure, then we look at the effort. and where we showed you, right, 2,000 hours in this case for PG SQL. Maybe SQL is also showing you like 2,900 or 3,000. Oracle VM shows 100. Then we show that, okay, if effort is the one, then Oracle VM is the right for this workload. So it's a price versus effort. That's what we.
And is it analyzing for, I mean, I'm sure it's analyzing for a ton of stuff, but if you've got a lot of partitioned Oracle tables, right, is it giving a recommendation and
Yeah, so what we do, we give the recommendation at the aggregate level, not at the each table. We look at what are the features you're using, right? Are you using data guard? Are you using partitioning? But not at the table level. Are you using partitioning in your Oracle, that particular server, right? We look at your performance data, right? So how, we look at the AWR data to see what is your CPU usage, what is your memory, how are your SGSIs, how are the PGSIs. And the third is your schema, like are you using a lot of materialized views? Are you using a lot of JSON? Are you using a lot of XMLs? Then those needs a lot of manual effort, right? Maybe they are not ideal for modernization. Or if you want to go for modernization, there's a lot of manual work we have to do. So in that case, maybe migrating to VM makes sense to you, right? So we give you an overall, and we say that how many, because when you're migrating Oracle to, let's say, SQL or PG SQL, you do a lot of schema by schema, right? Because your application is tied to the schema. So we see that, okay, how many simple schemas you have, how many small schemas, how many complex schemas. And then you can take a decision whether you want to move maybe 5 applications to SQL, and you want to make 2 applications to PG and 1 to maybe Oracle VM. So based on that, schema level information is also supplied to you.
Sorry, just picking up on the earlier question, Fabric's not currently a target for this.
We have not considered Fabric in our preview at this point. In the private preview, which we have DB, MI, VM, Oracle VM, and PG SQL. Fabric is something which we will look into it and see if we need to bubble it up. We will go ahead and bubble it up here, right?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, and right now we don't read Oracle Exa. So right now it's going to read the standalone oracles. So Exa is on our roadmap, but not in the preview at this point. Yeah, so it's not going to scan Oracle Exa at this point. Yeah.
Thanks, Neil. Perfect. So with this, let me quickly go back in the presentation mode. And here we are. Perfect. So far, actually, we talked about the migration toolings and how actually we can go and migrate from a specific source to target. What are the first-party tools that Microsoft has today? What's the plan in the pipe? We talked about all this stuff. But what my team does is, let me start with that, and then we are going to jump into the next set of slides. We are the Azure SQL Databases Customer Success Engineering team. And the biggest charter of this team is to ensure that for all our big top enterprise customers, as well as the medium and the small businesses, to ensure that when they are either thinking or planning about either migrating or modernizing from their existing sources to a given specific destination target on Azure databases, be it SQL, PostgreSQL, Cosmos DB, then this is the team from engineering, direct engineering, who's going to go and help them out. So take an example. You have a customer who's running a large Oracle data estate, and they have a big partner engaged along with them to go ahead through the modernization journey. But there are so many ifs and buts as part of large data estate modernization. To start with, assessment itself takes a lot of cycles. Then how efficiently customers can go and ensure that everything is assessed, for example, converted, and then migrated to the specific target platform, that is where engineering comes in picture. And we are, as I said, customer success engineering, and Harmeet also took the name of ours, which is like a short code name Ninja. So we don't have the swords in hands, but we are having hands on the keyboard to ensure that your partners and you are successful when we are unblocking them seamlessly migrating from a specific source to a given target. At any given point in time, my engineering team works in parallel with close to like 300 odd customers at the bare minimum to ensure that we are kind of helping them unblock. And literally all the top customers, I would say, be it in US or the world, they are part of our list. And what that brings is, that brings us with loads and loads of learnings. And the learnings are not the easy ones, because the easy ones are something which we're going to go and find in the blog. We'll go and publish that as part of our documentation. But these are the ones where actually we also learn and rinse and repeat and provide it back to our customers as part of those learnings. So that's what our team does. And tying back to what our colleagues like Neil and Harmeet were talking about, that when you're migrating from the database systems like Oracle and others, then there are actually a set of what I call as salient capabilities, which these, I would say, the powerhouse of the database systems in the world have. I would be wrong in saying that Oracle is not one of the top database systems in the world. They are. But how, from a salient capabilities point of view, if any customer or enterprise wants to migrate from Oracle to, let's say, either PostgreSQL on Azure or SQL or Cosmos DB, how actually they can go and map those salient capabilities. So these, you can think in a way, like these are some of the top asked and talked about points when we go and walk into those architectural discussions. So I can take a very classical example where like customers are asking for multi-region write. That I need multi-region write today that is available in Oracle. How, Microsoft, you're going to go and help me out with that? To that, our answer is very simple, that if you ask me today and you need multi-region write, the most feasible solution that we can offer and provide you is our Cosmos DB as a solution. So you can go ahead and start leveraging Cosmos DB. And that is something which actually this metrics kind of tells you. If, on the other hand, there are customers who are talking about, oh, I'm using Oracle RAC for high availability. Can I go and achieve the similar high availability in the case of any targets on Azure? Our answer is yes. You can go ahead and achieve that as part of SQL DB, SQL Managed Instance, PostgreSQL, Cosmos DB, all of them. But for us, that's kind of like initial part of the discussions. Once you go and start deep diving into this step by step, you also reach to a stage where you have to go and think about and talk about what is the seasonality of your system. How critical your systems are. Are they really business critical, mission critical? Or are these the systems which are more like dev, test, UAT boxes, which can afford a set of downtime? Or maybe they don't have any specific compliance or security requirements which ask you like keeping your backup for, let's say, next 15 years, and so on and so forth. So once we start deep diving from those steps, then again, there are a set of patterns which we actually reach to. So I'm going to quickly touch base about a few of the patterns. And let me tell you one thing. What you're seeing on the screen in terms of list of patterns, these are just like, I would say, tip of the iceberg. There are loads and loads of patterns, but these are the ones which come on the top of our list. So the very first one, if I talk about, is that the databases which are very large in size, VLDBs, and that have very aggressive downtime and cutover requirements. So if we are landing into a situation where this is a pattern that is identified, we ourselves go back and ask that, what's the VLDB size that you have? For example, you have 15 terabytes, 20 terabytes, 50 terabytes, or what? And what is the downtime window that you can afford? Most of the time, customer comes back and says, I cannot afford any downtime. But when we go in deep dive, we understand. It could be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And based on that, the solution is recommended. And typically in these cases, the solutions are either there is an online migration option available, or there is a custom solution that is available. So I'm going to be talking about something slightly later in the slides, a very quick demo, that if customers who want to go with the online migration when they are moving from Oracle and their business critical systems to, let's say, either SQL or PostgreSQL, what are the options out there? And Neil was talking about it, that from our tooling point of view, we can go and do the assessment today, we can do the conversion, but for the data migration, there is something that we have to look at. And this is something exactly what I'm going to talk about, which means we have a set of custom engineering curated IPs, which you can go ahead and leverage as customers and do the near real-time data migration. In the similar way, if customers are having the, I would say, HADR requirements, which are with the high RPO and RTO, we again deep dive into that. And if we are finding that the RPOs and RTOs are something which are within the range of a specific service, that service is recommended, be it like SQL DB or managed instance or PostgreSQL. So that is how actually I would say we identify the patterns. But one key thing I would like to highlight, that in all these modernization journey and the migration journey, the highly underestimated piece is the efforts to migrate any system. I would be telling a lie if I say that you do an assessment from one of the migration tool and you do the conversion and you do the migration, there would be hardly any efforts. If we do so, that is something like a HR schema I'm migrating, or maybe some kind of a demo databases I'm migrating. But in reality, when you're going for a production migration, a very big data estate, there are multiple factors that come in and kick in picture. Starting from your database, conversion, assessment, as well as the migration. And of course, the application piece too, where you have to go and test it out and validate and see everything is working fine or not. So these are the some of the top complexities I wanted to kind of discuss with you. There is a big list, and if you feel that any of your workloads and applications which you are planning to kind of go and do the modernization in future, we'd be very happy to kind of engage with you and help you out with that. Now, from here also, if I quickly jump and show you, now this is something which we call as a decision process. So from a decision process point of view, this also helps us understand, as I was talking about a couple of points, that what is your workload and what is your workload qualifier based on pattern. So let's take a very simple example. If any of our customers is looking for that, hey, I'm planning to migrate from Oracle to PostgreSQL or Cosmos DB for PostgreSQL, then how can I make a choice between these two? Both are literally the same service if I look from a customer point of view, and they are not wrong. So there are certain workload qualifiers which can help you easily identify that what is the service out of these two you should go. I can take a very simple example that to start with, what's the size of the database that you have today, and what's the growth that you are anticipating? If somebody comes and tells me that I have a typical OLTP system and my database size today is, let's say, somewhere close to 15 to 20 terabytes, I expect maybe another 10 terabytes growth in the next 5 years, our simple recommendation is go ahead and start your migration to PostgreSQL Flex Server, because that's where your all needs are going to be met, because it can support you until 32 terabytes as of today. And we have all the bells and whistles out there. So that kind of sets you a simple workflow in where you can clearly see that what are the workload qualifiers and how I can go and migrate. But if same question comes in a different way, that I have an Oracle system, 60 terabytes, it's a complete warehouse, and I need to move to Azure on the PostgreSQL. What are my options? My first workload qualifier itself will say that Postgres Flex Server doesn't support more than 32 terabytes. I cannot offer that to you. And that is why you should be going and thinking about Cosmos DB for PostgreSQL. And you have a data warehousing type of a workload. It perfectly matches to that kind of a target. So you see, depending on your type of workloads and qualifiers, you can easily go and have this kind of a mapping. And this is something which we walk in as engineering when we are working with our customers to ensure that they are having these workflows in place and they have very good crystal clarity that what to choose based on their requirements. Same concept in the case of if somebody is moving from Oracle to SQL. In the case of SQL, you have multiple options available for you. But similarly, like there are workload qualifiers. I take a same example up there, which I have taken in the case of PostgreSQL. So if you have any requirement where you want to migrate from Oracle to SQL, but your Oracle database is more than, let's say, 40 terabytes, the natural fit for you becomes SQL DB Hyperscale because it supports 100 terabytes of storage. But if any customer comes back and asks me, hey, I have my Oracle system, but I'm going to need a lot of transactions, which are very compliance transactions, and these transactions should be fully, I would say, coordinated and distributed transactions. So that kind of enables me with an understanding that customer is looking for MSDTC type of a solution. And for MSDTC, we can go and offer them either SQL managed instance, or we can offer them SQL as a VM. So you can clearly see that how the options are coming in picture. And these workload qualifiers are very, very important. So this is something which we help our customers understand, but I wanted to kind of share with you that how actually engineering works, and we ensure that depending on the type of workload and the qualifiers, what are the potential targets which are going to be very beneficial for you. Now with that, I'm going to quickly jump and talk about one of the public case studies that we have done with American Airlines. And there's a very recent one out of the system where we helped American Airlines to go ahead and migrate their 13 Oracle Exadata appliances from on-prem to SQL MI. So it's a big combination of like SQL MI, but ultimately this is the system from American Airlines, which we call that as like one of their marquee system for customers, where like when customers are walking in and they are booking the tickets, then they should be having all the latest and greatest information about their tickets, their schedules. They want to go and cancel it, update it. All that data is managed and processed by this mission-critical system. And when American Airlines came, they came with this clear thought that, hey, this is my mission-critical system. We cannot afford the downtime. Plus, the data that we have on this system is complex, and it is somewhere between 10 to 12 terabytes of data that we have overall. And we have very short window where actually we have to go and migrate. We looked at their system, and what we have identified that they were using Oracle Exadata, and along with the Exadata, they had Golden Gate licenses too. And from the requirements point of view, when we analyzed it very clearly, it was evident that SQL MI is going to be best fit. When I say SQL MI, it's SQL managed instance, okay? And we helped them with the assessment and the conversion and the migration. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is the architecture in terms of how actually we help them migrate. So with this system, the way actually we helped them migrate was that the initial assessment was done by SQL Server Migration Assistant, which is SSMA that you can see out there. And along with SSMA, we have given them a path that for their one-time data load, because this is so much of the data, then for their one-time data load, they should go and do this data migration using Azure Data Factory. We help them with that particular factory setup. And once the one-time data migration was done, we asked them to kick in a CDC process, which means they did not migrate everything in one go. As we can see that this is a mission-critical system. It cannot take downtime. That's where one-time data migration through ADF, and we started kicking in CDC via the Golden Gate licenses, which we understood from them that they already have. So why don't you go ahead and use it? And customer agreed to use that. So they use their Golden Gate licenses to go and start the CDC process, which is the incremental data load process. And on the day of final cutover, they did the cutover and finally did the data integrity checks also. So the data integrity check is more like, on the source Oracle, if everything is out there that is coming out here on the SQL MI, and everything is matching in terms of like either the number of records or even the data that is coming into each cell or columns. So what we have done is that there is an in-house engineering tool that we have developed that is called as data compare utility. And we leverage that data compare utility and given it to customer, and they have validated everything, and the cutover is finally done in almost like less than a 10-minute of time window. So that was something which was like a deal breaker for American Airlines, because this was the very first system that they migrated from Oracle Exadata to SQL MI. And with the success of this, then they took all other applications which were running on additional Exadata appliances back to SQL MI. So this was like a fantastic case study, I would say, which we had with them. And we, as I said, these are the complex engagements that we work with customer. And what happens is that there are certain things which are going to be by default supported by the first-party tools that we have. But there would be scenarios also where we all understand that we cannot cover each and every piece of scenario as part of the tools that we have. If we are finding any scenarios, complex scenarios, which are not covered by our first-party tools, we are coming up with those custom IPs. So as you can see, the data compare tool is one of those gaps which we have identified, where it can go and compare the both source and target databases, table by table, column by column, and give you very precise details that if everything is matching or if there is anything which is not matching. And then you can go and make those fixes. So I'll take a pause. Any questions around this?
How would you do that? How would you do the sync if we don't have Golden Gate, right? I mean, that's a pricey tool. It's a nice tool to have, but there's going to be a lot more probably that don't have that.
That's $1 million question, okay? To answer that in simple terms, we have also developed a custom IP which can help you achieve that. And that is the IP which we call as like a Spark and Debezium-based data migration IP. And that is something which I'm going to demo in a very short while. What that will do is that will help you with both initial data load as well as the incremental loads. And that way you can achieve literally near real-time data migration as you're looking for. And this is an engineering IP, so at any given point in time, if you want to use it, you have to come to us, and we are going to be the person who will white glove this for you, for your customers, okay? So quickly on the same, as you asked about, this data migration IP. So this IP is actually IP that is sitting on the top of Spark. And now we have also added support for Debezium, but I'm specifically going to talk about Spark here. So think about scenario where like you are migrating from either homogeneous systems or heterogeneous system, be it like SQL to SQL migration or Oracle to SQL migration and so on and so forth. If that's the case, you can go ahead and leverage this custom IP. What it does is that it will do the one-time data load for you as well as the incremental data load. We have given both the options to customer that they can go ahead and, if they have their own Spark clusters, they can go ahead and leverage them and run this IP. But if they are not invested in Spark, and let's say they are invested in Debezium and other tools, then they can go and use the OSS-based Debezium piece too and still run the same IP. But from this IP point of view, there are a couple of things which I would like to call out, that this IP is at scale IP, which means like if you want to migrate data from Oracle to, let's say, PostgreSQL, what we have seen is that we have got, with all the parallelism, close to 1 terabyte of data migration speed in close to less than 3 hours, okay? Yeah, so with that actually, we have to also ensure that it all depends on your Spark clusters, how you have spun, and things like that. And it is super fast. It can go ahead and migrate all the tables from Oracle database to SQL or PostgreSQL, or you have the choice to go and be very selective and migrate whatever you want. You also have the choice that if in a given table, you want to only migrate a subset of data, you can go ahead and define your custom queries. So all those bells and whistles are part of this IP. What I want to do is now to kind of take you through a quick demo of this IP That way, you can see it and you can experience it. So let me quickly switch to this IP demo. Perfect. And it's a big 9-minute demo, but we are not going to spend that much time there. So what is happening here is you can see, I'm sorry. Just give me a sec. Thanks for calling that out. OK. So let's look at this IP. So what you're seeing is that we are connected to an Oracle instance where we have created a test table. And this test table is just demonstrating you like what type of data types and columns that you can migrate. And this is something which is on our Oracle instance. We have a Postgres instance also running. And what we have done is that we have created the same schema out there. And there is no data in the Postgres tables at this moment. And here, this is actually our configuration that we have in the case of Spark. So the very first thing that we have to do in the case of Spark is that we have to connect to our Spark cluster. And on the Spark side, we have to go and install a couple of libraries. One is the Oracle JDBC library to make the connections to Oracle. Same for the XML XMDB. And then if you are connecting to SQL, then you can go ahead and have the SQL libraries installed. And then the fourth one is actually the files, which are our Spark-based files, which are installed there on this cluster. So once these files are installed, the next step is that we can go to the notebook itself. And in the notebook, you can see that there are going to be source connections and the target connections, which we define. Both the source and target connections are actually going to have all the details here, like when you're connecting to Oracle and you're connecting to PostgreSQL. You can notice that there is password in the open text, but you can go ahead and have this password very well stored in your key vaults. And then you can retrieve from there. But here, actually, you can define that permutation and combination. And once we are done with this, what we're going to go and do is that we're going to go and start eventually running our notebook, which is the Spark notebook out here. So within a sec, we'll start running this. Sorry. So this is the Spark notebook, which is for the initial load. We started running it, and you can see that it is kind of finishing. And because this is like a very small table, it will take 35, 36 seconds. But you can see that now we are connecting to PostgreSQL, and we are trying to see if the records are coming here. You can see the records are coming. And we are still running here. Once the job finishes, we will have close to 19,000 odd records coming. So you can see that now we have these number of records coming here, so which means the initial load is complete. Now, what about the incremental load? Once the initial load is done, you can then define, there is another notebook which you can go and run for the incremental load. And what that will do is that will bring the incremental data into these tables. So I'm going to go and fast forward here to kind of showcase you something which is very quickly here that we are trying to update. So what we are going to do is demonstrate you the incremental load. And in the case of incremental load, we are going to change, let's say, this row from AAA to CCC on the Oracle side. And we'll show you how that incremental piece of data migration works. So here we have changed that to DDD, and then here is the incremental load notebook that is going to go and run. And once the incremental load has completed, you will find that this data is going to now be available in our PostgreSQL with the updates. So this IP can be very well used by any of our customers. It is just that it is not publicly available, but if you engage us, we will be happy to share it with you under NDA. And it's a very versatile IP, which actually uses MView log under the hood. And depending on the Spark clusters, the way you have set up, you can leverage it and you can migrate as much data as you want, and you don't have to pay the licenses fee for Golden Gate or maybe any other third-party tools like Stream, HVR, and so on and so forth. So that's about this tool. I know that we are pretty much on. We have? Okay. So perfect. Thank you. So with this, we talked about this tool. Any questions before I quickly jump maybe on a 3 minutes another demo of the data compare as we were talking about, that how you can do data compare? Because typically for customers, migration and modernization is one piece, but if I'm a customer, I'm going to be so paranoid about my data, whether I have each and every bit of my cell and data accurately coming to my target or not, right? And that's where this data compare tool that I was talking about really shines. So let's quickly look at the data compare tool also. But before I jump on the demo of data compare, there are a couple of things which I want to talk about. This data compare tool is it's a versatile tool that we have. It can go and compare from SQL to SQL. It can go and compare from Oracle to Postgres, Oracle to MySQL, MySQL to MySQL, PostgreSQL to PostgreSQL. You just think about all these permutation combinations. We have got this tool covered you on that. What it does is, and again, very simple thing, under the hood, it takes the hashes. So ultimately, it creates a hash of your source in terms of your data in the table. So each row has its own hash created, and for all the data in the table and for all the tables in the database, and it goes and similarly creates the hashes on the target, and eventually it matches both of them. If there is no match in terms of hash, that's your odd cell out or odd records out, where you have to go and act upon, right? That's how this particular tool works. And this is a publicly available tool. We're going to share the link of that as part of the presentation also. But let's quickly look at the data compare tool demo here. So we are connecting to an Oracle instance here. And under Oracle, we will go into the HR database. And there is a table that's a demo table that we have created. And we have got a lot of data here. And this time, from a scenario point of view, we are migrating from Oracle to SQL. And we are comparing between Oracle and SQL. And this is the data compare utility that I was talking about. It's available publicly on Microsoft website. You can go and download this. Once you have downloaded it, then there are certain configurations actually you have to look at. But to the basics, the configuration is what is your source database, what's your target database. We have to really go and configure that in the config file. And once we configure that, this tool is also highly, I would say, flexible, that you can go and say that how many tables within a database you want to go and compare, or you want to compare the whole database, and things like that. And as I was talking about, that it can do Postgres to Postgres, Oracle to Postgres, and all that combination, and that is why you're seeing a lot of like commented code in this particular config file. But depending on what source target you are looking at, you should be just going and uncommenting that particular part of the configuration, put your database name, your user credentials, and then actually you are good to go. So ultimately, we are doing this for source Oracle and the target PostgreSQL, target SQL, and that's where we are going to go and compare again. So we have configured it. There is actually a DLL that we bring as part of this whole download. That DLL is something which you have to go and drop in this folder location where you have downloaded the data compare utility. And then there is a exe, which is the data compare exe that you have to eventually go and run. And once you run it, you're going to go and start seeing the magic happening. So wherever everything is matching, fine, you're all good. But things which are not matching and you're finding the odd records or anything which is not comparing well, you'll find those exceptions coming here. And based on those exceptions, as you can see that there are exceptions coming for a table and we are having those errors coming, you can analyze them here on the command line, and you can go to the logs also. There are logs generated per table. So you can get into the table, you can get into the logs, it can take you to the exact record, it can take you to the exact cell that this particular cell is having this column value and another column value and where the problem is. So here in this particular case, the problem is the data type mismatch. So decimal to int, we have induced it to ensure that there are some changes. And as you can see, there are a source and target value. Those are the literally kind of hash values that are coming. And that's where I would say the differences are. So this idea behind this tool is to give the power in the hands of our customers all across to ensure that once the migration is complete, they do the final validation and have the peace of mind. So this utility, as I said, is available out there. You can try and test it out. Now with that, I'm quickly going to jump on another set of slides, which are, again, from our perspective, that these are the migration resources. I would highly encourage you to kind of look at the migration resources which are out there and leverage these tools as much as you can, be it like Azure Data Studio, where the extensions, as Neil was talking about, Harmeet was also talking about, like those extensions, and be it like data migration services, which is Azure DMS, as well as the Azure Migrate and other pieces. And if you need any help related to the custom IPs that we talked about, you know that you can make a reach out to us, and we are going to ensure that we are working with you or your customers to help you unblock. With that, I'll open the floor for Q&A. If there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer.